Show in store for you today. It's going to be both informative and lots of fun. We're going to have both Johan Torres, he's the owner and CEO of GBS Financial Services, and taught a little taxes, a little small business tips, just all the great work that he does.
The services that he provides to all his clients.
To his clients. And then also we're going to be joined later on in the show by Stephanie Devada, the owner of Seville Pitnit, just to talk.
The picnic lady, I call her.
The Pitnit professional. How about that? The Pitnit professional, and just the things that she's doing in the winter, things that you can do, begin to think about in the spring. You should start thinking about your pitnits sooner rather than later, because all I can say is she's filling up.
That's right.
On spots.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, like every business, you have to think ahead, right? I mean, and even in your own personal life, if you want to do something in a couple of months, you better thinking about it now. Because by the time you want to do it, it's like, sorry, we're booked. Or sorry, it's too late. It's like,
exactly.
Oh boy.
I mean, if you want a great pitnit from Seville Pitnit, you don't call a week in advance and be like, because everybody else is already doing it.
Especially if you put that little ring on the young lady. Boy,
you
don't want to be late.
If you're planning that a week in advance, you've got serious problems.
Well, that's something I would have done in the old days.
Somehow I don't think a week before you proposed to my mother you were thinking about it. But a fun show in store for you today, and we'll get started shortly. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're very excited to have you joining us this morning. It's definitely chilly out there, but hopefully not as cold as the last couple of days.
It's warm and cozy in here,
but it's still warm and cozy in here, and it can be warm and cozy where you are, too, if you just grab yourself a little café con leche or a cup of coffee and sit down and watch Today y Mañana with us. Be sure to like and share. Let us know, as always, if you have any comments, any questions that you want us to cover, either in the little financial segment at the beginning or something you want to ask our guests. We're going to be joined by two fantastic guests today. First by Johan Torres. He's the owner and CEO of GBS Financial Services, helping a lot of clients, especially Latino clients,
very much so,
here in Charlottesville with everything from business licenses, tips, taxes, accounting, anything you could need. He's there to assist you with that. And then we're going to be joined a little later by Stephanie Devada, the owner of Seville Pitnit, just to talk about some of the amazing pitnit creations that she's doing both in the winter and things you can be looking forward to.
It's amazing.
The rest of this year. So as always, we're really excited to be presented by Emergent Financial Services and powered by our partners in GBS Financial Services, Seville Pitnit, Vitae Spirits, Aqua Seville Hand Car Wash, and Miguel and Chit from Sirius Strategic Insurance.
And I have to admit, I mean, given the weather we've had, right, and the way the cars look these days, I mean, Aqua,
You could probably use a
little hand wash, not bad, right?
Because
I know they don't use as much salt here. That's what they say.
It looks like it, though.
But I tell you look at your car and it looks like, man, there's a lot of stuff there that I don't want it sitting there on my paint for the whole year. So
it's true.
It's a good time to visit.
Time to be thinking about it. Now, Johnny Ornella says, "Buenos dias, jóvenes."
Oh, jóvenes.
Buenos dias,
gracias, Johnny. Gracias. I look better every day. I'm telling you.
And Xavier loves that, so thank you, Johnny. You just made his day.
Absolutely.
By saying jóvenes. Thanks for watching, and be sure to, anyone who wants to like and share, ask us any questions. I know our first financial segment today, a little bit of everything that's going on in the news.
I have a little levity, actually, starting today. Yeah,
levity.
Because I know we're always bashing the Fed. I know that even Jerry loves to bash the Fed, but I'm going to put up, so I know probably Judah's saying, what's he doing? I'm going to put up a little picture here, right? And I literally saw this today, right? And so it looks like it's a boss, and he's yelling at his employee because he's late, right? And so, and I have to turn it to read it because I didn't memorize it. It says, and the boss is late again, and he says, "My bad, this thing is stuck on Federal Reserve time." So you know how a bad watch is right at least twice a day? Well, the Federal Reserve is never right?
It's never right.
And it's funny because I've been saying that for such a long time, and don't get me wrong, I mean, these folks are smart. I'm not saying that they just don't know what they're doing. The issue is that, you've got 12 people, or you've got a board that is trying to decide what is right for the economy, what's right for interest rates. And I've always been of the opinion that the market is greater than one person, 6 people, 12 people, whatever the number may be, right? And so it's very difficult for the Fed to get it right. And two, as you mentioned on Jerry's show the other day, they've put themselves in a box, right? Because in the old days, you had inflation, and yesterday CPI came in at 7%.
This morning,
right?
PPI, which is the inflation faced by wholesalers, like producers of goods.
Which means that it's going to translate into the CPI eventually.
And that one hit 9.7, I mean, highest on record.
Absolutely. So you sit there and you go, you got inflation at 7%. You got the PPI at 9.7%, right? And so looking forward, it's very difficult to say that inflation is going to drop precipitously anytime soon. It's going to hang out there for whatever that may be, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. And we know that inflation is not something that you can just get rid of, boom, by the snap of a finger. In the old days, as we said, the Fed used to raise rates in order to begin to squash. And the reason...
And raise rates significantly. Like, you don't squash 6% inflation with a 0.25% rate increase. I mean, you think the 70s, how did they squash that inflation? I mean, this would rates to 15%.
Exactly.
Because you have to at least be higher than the rate of inflation to really begin to shut that down.
That's right. And certainly in the 70s, there was just, I guess the feel was that the economies were overheated, right? But here we have a situation where, you sit back, you go, well, the economy is not really overheated, right? I mean, the reason we have inflation is different. But in either case, they're sitting there saying, we have a $9 trillion balance sheet. We have a government that loves to spend as if there was no tomorrow. And so all that interest that they have to pay on that debt is enormous. So they're stuck saying, do we raise rates and create a pressure on the government by having to pay more interest? 2, do we raise rates and squash an economy that is growing, but given what happened in 2020, you would think it would be booming, right? So do we want to squash that? And how much do we have to raise rates in order to defeat inflation? And as you said, I mean, if they raise rates 3 times next year, and I know too, I mean, they've been tapering, means that they haven't been buying as many bonds as they've been in the past, and that's supposed to stop in March. They've talked about literally selling, right, which is really a way to reduce their balance sheet.
So it's the other tool that they have.
Exactly. Which will put pressure on interest rates, presumably, right? And then 3rd, raise rates. But they're talking about raising the rates maybe 3 times next year. Now, they haven't said how much, but typically it's a 1/4 point, right?
Well, it would be shocking to see.
And I don't think they want to
completely out of
spook the
anything
market.
they've done for them to suddenly do a one-time 1% rate hike. They're never going to do it.
They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that, right? So in either case, if you raise rates 3 times and it's a 1/4 each, and maybe one time they do 0.5% and spook the market, you're talking about 1%. That's 1%. So if they do it again the next year, that's 2%.
So 2%.
If inflation is at 7%, I don't think that's doing much.
No,
right?
what's the impact? I mean,
Exactly.
you raised rates less than inflation is currently tracking.
Yeah.
So the impact is going to be minimal.
So the issue that I have is that, what are we going to see this year? And I know that, people always talk about volatility. Well, volatility exists every single year, right? The issue we have this year is that we have, again, an inflation rate that is here, and it, as far as we all feel, it's not transitory. I mean, it's here.
Certainly
and it
not
looks more
transitory in the
permanent.
way they were saying it last year. I mean,
That's right.
The
It may be
less than 12 months transitory that ship has sailed. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
maybe in the span of a 20-year cycle, it's transitory, right?
Yeah.
It's possible, right? But certainly in a lifetime that we live in means that we go out and here's some stats and literally again I just saw these today, right? As far as, because let's face it, inflation destroys savings, right? It impedes planning, right? And it discourages investments. So those are 3 terrible things, right? And you look at gasoline is up 49%. Hotels are up 27%. So going on vacation makes it very difficult, right? It makes it very painful, right? Furniture and bedding up 13%. Meat, poultry, and fish up almost 13%, right? So even though inflation's quote unquote 7%, the things that you use the most, things that you need the most, right?
Because the issue is that the inflation number, the headline inflation number, the CPI, is massaged. And what I mean by that is that you take these rough edges and you say, how do we make this look a little nicer? Because what do? They something like automobiles. Automobiles go up in price. Well, the inflation people at the Bureau of Labor Statistics sit there and say, well, this year's TARs are better than last year's TARs.
Exactly.
So we have to adjust that inflation number down to reflect the higher quality of tar. And that's all well and good, but when you go to buy a tar, you can't buy you can't magically get last year's tar prices and say, oh, no, just give me this tar that I want, but take away the quality enhancement so that I want a worse tar but at a lower price. It doesn't work that way anymore. Once the new tar comes out at a higher price of used tars rises as well. So it's not that you can go backwards in time and say, yeah, just give me the tar without the inflation and without the quality enhancement. You're stuck with the tar that has inflation, it's gone up in price, but it has this quality enhancement to it. And all these numbers are put together along with things that maybe don't inflate as much. So if you have a year in which your washing machines and your dryers don't go up that much in price, maybe they went up 3%, but food went up 12%. The inflation number shows up in the middle, but you're sitting there saying, well, the thing I buy most of, which is food, went up more than inflation.
Exactly.
The thing I buy most of, rent, went up more than inflation. So the impact on the average person is probably going to be higher than the 6% number that you see in the headline.
Exactly. And so interesting that you talked about cars, because used cars went up about 30%, right? Well, new cars went up 11%, but why? I mean, if you can't buy a new car, you go there and buy a new car and say, well, we don't have any, you got to go buy a used car. So the used car salesperson says, well, this car is a little more expensive today than it was yesterday because three of you want it, right? So that's been the issue. And so from a market's perspective, I mean, so, we saw the market take off this year, and, it looks like everything is negative. As of today, the only things that look positive are really international, is only because the dollar is down, right? So that makes those particular sectors good. But, the bond market is down about 1%. Around just about anything you look at. You have the S&P's down about 0.75%. Small stocks, growth stocks, they continue to get hit. They're down about 3%. So I just think it's going to be one of those years where we're just going to see this kind of market, where the market is expecting something. It may not get it, or may get a surprise on the negative side and then feel, I mean, this is not good. And without any doubt, I mean, interest rates will be going up a little bit, right? How much, I don't think we know. But I thought one thing was really interesting, and I don't want to take too much time because I know we want to talk about, impuestos, right? So, but the one thing that I think is really interesting is the fact that the yield curve, right? If you look at what happened to the 2-year,
so
the 3-year.
The yield curve is imagine, it's the rate at different points of time, the length of the bond. So in other words, the yield curve has 3-month bonds, 6-month bonds,
1-year bonds,
1-year bonds,
all the way
5-year bonds,
year.
all the way out to 30-year bonds. So when you put all their interest rates together, you get a curve, because typically speaking, a 30-year bond is a higher interest rate than a 3-year bond. But the yield curve can be flat, meaning it's the same interest rate for 30 years as 3 months. It can be inverted, meaning 30 years has a lower interest rate than 3 months. So it can have different shapes, the yield curve.
Exactly. And basically, and thank you for defining that. I just assume everybody knows what a yield curve is. I've been, living and breathing yield curve so much. It's part of my vocabulary.
You're somewhat of a different
I go to sleep
universe.
saying yield curve. Anyway, so the issue here is that if you look at what happened in those sectors in the 3-month and in the 6-month, the 2-year, interest rates went up already, in the expectation that the Fed's going to raise rates, right? But yet the 10-year, even though it's up a little bit, since the end of the year, but it's up less, and the 30-year is up less, right? So I mean, it just looks like little by little we may have an inverted yield curve, as you mentioned. In other words, a 3-month Treasury bill may have a higher yield than a 30-year bond.
Which
right?
typically is not a good sign.
Which is not a good sign. It means one of two things. Either people expect that inflation will go down because of that, or there's a recession coming, right? And an inverted yield curve, right, is not good for the financial industry, in particular banks, right? Because banks, remember, they lend long and borrow short. And if they're borrowing at higher rates and then lending, that's not a
problem.
good, that's not a good profit margin for them. So I think it's going to be a tough year. I think it's going to be a tough year in deciding, where do you want to be sector-wise? How do you want to allocate your funds investment-wise, right? And again, you be patient, because there will be opportunities.
I think that's what it is. I think it's a year that's going to require more caution, because the backdrop, let's face it, for the last, 5 When did they last raise rates? 2018? Was it, or was it 2017, I think, that they raised? Was the last time the Fed raised rates. So basically 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. For the last 4 years, the market has had always behind it this backdrop of anytime the market seems to be verging on correction or, basically a decline, the Federal Reserve is there to calm them down and step in and say, don't worry, we'll lower rates, we won't stop buying bonds, we'll put some more money into the market. There's always been that backdrop of the Federal Reserve to calm them down and push the market back up.
Correct.
And I think this year, it's beginning to be clear that we're not going to have that. The Federal Reserve is not going to be there to say, oh yeah, we raised rates once, but now we're going to drop them again a month later because the market is down a little bit. That's probably not going to happen this year.
No.
So that backdrop is no longer there. So now you do have the potential that if the market gets a little nervous and has a little decline, it may not be down 2%, and then it's back up the next day because Powell said that he'll lower rates again. You may actually enter those 5-10% declines of correction territory, which means that you just got to be a little more cautious, right? And then, like you said, you have to be patient and look for those opportunities when the correction happens to go in. And you can't just, and of course, as always, you don't sell in a panic.
Right.
But I think this year's going to require a little more, like you said, patience and caution on the part of investors, because the magic wand backdrop of don't worry, my fairy godmother will make everything better again is not going to be there this year. The magic Federal Reserve is not there to calm the market every time it has a little temper tantrum.
Exactly. And again, the chances of every single market going up is probably slim right now, right? So there'll be opportunities where some markets go down, you take a look, you might sell something that went up a lot, buy something that went down a little under the expectations that will too, as you say, revert to the median, right?
Exactly.
Reversal.
Exactly.
Anyway, so speaking of inflation, right? Inflation is the worst is the worst tax of all, right? Because it hits everybody, right? And we have a wonderful gentleman here, Johan Torres, with us that is very helpful to all his clients, and I know he works a lot with the Hispanic community, small businesses, individuals, in helping them, because it's unfortunate, but when it comes to tax season, it's one of those times where you just want somebody to sit down and say, help me with this, because the paperwork and everything that's involved is just so much. So welcome, Johan. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. I love the show. I love you guys. You guys are great. And yes, since the beginning of January, I'm getting calls from people saying this is my worst time of the year, because I have to do taxes and I hate to do taxes. So, well, here I am. I can help you, deal with that issue for sure.
It's funny. So whenever we say taxes, that word is just a terrible word. But when I say it in Spanish, it doesn't seem that bad. It's the same problem, but I say impuestos, it sounds nicer, It's the same pain.
Longer but nicer.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So for those who don't know you, you do so much. What are some of the things the services that you offer to small businesses and individuals?
Okay, so first of all, I started GBS in 2010 because of a recession, So you always have to see the bad things, always something good could come. So that was the best thing that happened to me at that time. So I created GBS, and what we do is we offer everything. We help you create your company. We get you all the licenses that you need for that type of company, and then we'll help you with the bookkeeping and taxes at the end of the year. So we do like the whole thing, we help you with the whole process. I also, because of my clients, they were always asking me to help them find a commercial building or find a home. At some point, I decided to become a realtor as well. So that's another service that we offer in GBS. So we can help you get your commercial building or your home.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's good. It's interesting that in the services that one provides, sometimes clients come say, can you help us with this, or can you help us with that? Right? And there are times you can, and this is one where Johan obviously has been able to help his clients in doing that. Finding opportunities in real estate, etc. So that's great. Pero ¿quieres preguntar la pregunta? No, pero yo sé que tú quieres practicar. Yo sé que quieres practicar.
Sí, yo quiero practicar.
Muy bien.
Bueno,
Entonces lo
tenemos unas preguntas en español para ser bilingües. Entonces, claro que ofrece usted muchos servicios, especialmente para negocios pequeños. ¿Cuáles son uno de ellos servicios?
Correcto. En GBS ofrecemos servicios para pequeños negocios, por supuesto, si hablamos de impuestos, ofrecemos impuestos para personas individuales y pequeños negocios donde la gente tiene quizás una pequeña LLC y le podemos hacer su Schedule C junto con sus taxes personales, o si tiene un partnership, pues le podemos hacer su 1065, si tiene una corporación lo ayudamos con su 1120. Y ya llega un momento en que si la compañía está creciendo mucho, yo tengo otras personas que lo pueden ayudar, ya tengo otro CPA, cuando ya es algo pues mucho más complejo, sí. Pues entonces tenemos personas que los pueden ayudar ya a pasar a ese otro paso, al next level.
Sí, sí.
Eso es muy importante, ¿no? Porque, en fin, naturalmente una persona individual, normalmente los impuestos es un poco más fácil, en el sentido no hay tanto papel, ¿no? No hay tantas formas de llenar, pero
correcto.
Cuando uno tiene una compañía, si es pequeña, también no es muy difícil, también es muchos papeles, muchas formas que hay que llenar, pero en cierto sentido es un poco más sencillo. Pero cuando llega a un punto donde hay muchas cosas de pensar, sí, es bueno saber
cuando hay empleados.
Claro, también ayudamos con eso, con el payroll. Y sí, pues, como está diciendo Xavier, cuando es una corporación ya es algo más complicado, tienes que hacer unos taxes diferentes de la compañía, o igualmente si es un partnership o se hace una 1065 que luego viene una K1 que se va a hacer con los taxes personales, entonces es un poquito más complicado y hay gente que no tiene idea de cómo hacer eso, y ahí es donde nosotros entramos y podemos ayudarlos.
Y eso es importante. I mean, so I'll say this in English and in Spanish.
Yeah.
And so, you know what's important about that is when you're running your business, so you're a small business, the last thing you want to worry about is the tax consequences of what you do or any tax issue, right? You just basically said, I want to run my business, I want to make I want to be able to provide as much service as possible, and with that, you generate income and hopefully you generate profits, right? So it's nice to have somebody like Johan that, at the end of the year, you just say, here's my paperwork, and I suspect that obviously you have books, you have
exactly.
maybe QuickBooks or whatever, and then you pass it along. But I assume that you probably get, when you get these QuickBooks or especially individuals, they might even come with a box full of here.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes they come with a bag full of invoices, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I mean, you have to get a book and start organizing everything, and then we can get together again. Otherwise, it's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars that I'm going to charge.
Of course. Because you have to. It's also like educating people to know
right.
That's what you
and
have
that's
to
what
do.
I educate them. So at the end, they get better and better, and they get more organized, which is better for them too.
No, absolutely.
I mean, as the small business owner, right? You want to be made, like you said, you want to be able to have the freedom to make decisions that are best for your company, and not have to think about if I make this decision, it's going to be more paperwork for me. You say, no, I'll make this decision, and then Johan can help me with the paperwork.
Exactly. That's the way it is.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I noticed that a lot of times, because I know we've been blessed by you helping us too. You obviously provide a service where sometimes you say, listen, you are now making good money, and so you need to think about retirement funds, right? Exactly. Whether it be an IRA or a Roth, or you might want to start a SEP plan or simple plan. So maybe you can, quizás en español puede explicar un poco de el proceso que usted hace con los clientes, es decir, ya están en un lugar donde es una buena oportunidad para ahorrar para el futuro.
Sí, correcto. Me ha pasado con varias compañías donde veo que ya ellos están en un punto que tienen bastante dinero ahorrado y a veces no saben qué hacer con el dinero. Entonces, pues yo los asesoro y les digo, mira, tienes varias opciones. O te compras un inmueble para tu negocio, o puedes comenzar a ahorrar para tu retiro, o puedes comenzar a ahorrar para tus hijos o para cualquier inversión. Y bueno, ya es donde muchas veces entran ustedes, que los recomiendo para que ustedes los ayuden ya en ese aspecto.
Y lo importante de saber es que todos los ahorros esos son también buenos para los impuestos, es decir, los impuestos se pagan un poquito menos,
Correcto,
¿no?
correcto, sí. Muchas veces, pues con lo del traditional IRA, muchas veces la gente puede tratar de no pagar tanto impuesto colocando ese dinero allí.
Y eso siempre es bueno, no pagar impuestos es
Claro,
siempre mejor.
ayuda,
Bueno,
siempre
sí,
ayuda.
son, the tools, the key is the beauty of this is it's all tools that enable you to sort of figure out, okay, how do I save, be successful, and also save on taxes? Because it's not even because we have this aversion to paying them. It's just that anything that's not paid in taxes, I can now use for my business again.
Right.
I can put back into my business and help make myself, help make it a better and more thriving company by not paying more than is necessary.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a restaurant right now that they are doing really, really well, and they're making a lot of money. And they say, Johan, what should I do? And I just told them, well, buy a building or buy something so you can get your own building, and then you can start depreciating it. And they just did it. They just bought a building, and they're gonna build their own restaurant there, or they're gonna fix it and have their own restaurant there now. It's gonna be their own building, and they're gonna be able to depreciate. So that's gonna help them in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
And that's the
what
key.
we do.
The key is, as you mentioned, so they're tools, right? It's not where you're trying to cheat the government of anything. It's just there are rules out there and opportunities out there where you just have to be smart enough and go to somebody like Johan and say, listen, this is the best route for you because one, it's obviously it's an investment, and two, you are saving on taxes in one way or another. And there's just rules that are out there and that are opportunistic for people that have small businesses, right?
Exactly.
Same thing with cars. Sometimes I tell them, buy cars, then you can depreciate them for 5 years, and then just buy a new car, And that's what a lot of people do, so they can, depreciate things, and that's going to help them at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Oh, do you already have some fans? Cynthia Murray says, Johan is great. Buenísimo.
Thank you, Cynthia.
And Miguel says,
she's great as well.
Miguel Corradine, friend of the show, says, buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. He's
Miguel.
loving the inflation conversation.
He's great.
Buongiorno, that
Good
sounds
friend,
actually,
really good friend.
Yeah, he's doing a little, he's giving us a little Italian
Yeah,
love.
no,
there.
really,
Buongiorno.
exactly.
Buongiorno, Miguel. Y algo que a veces y es parte de esta conversación, es que muchas veces negocios pequeños tienen consideraciones específicas con respecto a los impuestos, con respecto a las oportunidades para los ahorros. Entonces, ¿cuáles son unas de las consideraciones específicas que los dueños de un negocio pequeño tienen que considerar con respecto a sus impuestos?
Bueno, en esa parte quizás yo no sea la mejor persona para ayudar. Sé que hay diferentes ayudas para la gente, sobre todo los pequeños negocios. Hay diferentes ayudas, por supuesto. También está, si te registras como un S Corp, siempre va a haber un poco más de ayuda en la parte de impuestos, y eso siempre lo asesoro yo, que una corporación C, por decirle. Pero a veces si es para ayudas de préstamos y todo eso, no sé si a eso te refieres o solo a la parte de impuestos. Si es la parte de impuestos, sí hay diferentes formas que los podemos ayudar. Sí. Pero en la parte de préstamos también hay muchas ayudas para los pequeños negocios y pequeños comerciantes. Y creo que ustedes también conocen gente, ¿cómo se llaman ellos?
CIC.
Con CIC.
Sí, exacto, CIC, ella, Carolina, que es una de ellas, y bueno, sí, Rebeca creo que también está allí, pero ella creo que está en otra que es más para negocios un poco más avanzados, sí, correcto. Pero sí, siempre ayudamos en ese aspecto de cómo podemos ayudar al pequeño comerciante a que pueda hacer sus impuestos y que pague lo menos que tenga que pagar de la forma correcta.
A ver, y la vida de usted, empezando enero hasta abril 15, ¿cómo es? A ver, dígame un poco para que...
Bastante complicada. En enero, justo te estaba comentando, en enero es bastante complicado con todas las 1099 que tenemos que hacer, las W2, todo lo que tenemos que mandar a la gente del IRS con respecto a 940, 941, todo lo que es pago de nómina o payroll. Y luego en febrero comienzan los taxes hasta el 18. Este año va a comenzar el 24 de enero. Ya IRS comienza a recibir los taxes, pues uno puede hacer filing. Y el 18 de abril sería el último día hasta ahora. No sabemos si van a cambiar o no, pero esa es la fecha.
Mira, pues yo no sabía que había una fecha que se puede empezar.
Sí.
Yo pensaba
Sí,
que
yo
ya
no
enero
lo sabía,
primero,
sí.
naturalmente, sé que hay que esperar que uno recibe ciertas cosas, el doble 9, etcétera.
Sí.
Pero yo pensaba que puedes poner los impuestos el primer día si tienes toda información.
Sí,
pero por
no
visto
lo
que no.
reciben. Ellos reciben, comienzan a recibir en cierto momento.
Muy bien,
Entonces,
muy bien.
quizás si usted los manda por correo, van a llegar y en algún momento los van a procesar, pero electrónicamente el 24 de enero es cuando los
24.
comienzan a recibir.
Y hoy día la gente lo hace más electrónicamente, naturalmente supongo que usted lo hace más
Sí,
así.
o sea, porque yo soy el que los envío y sí, es mucho más conveniente. La única forma que no se envíen electrónicamente es cuando o se está pidiendo un ITIN number o hay algún problema o incluso cuando es una enmienda, antes no se podía, ahora sí se puede mandar electrónicamente cuando es una enmienda. Así que son casos muy específicos para mandarlos por correo regular. Sí.
Y supongo que es, I would assume that we're talking about electronic versus mailing in, and today
I mean,
electronic
to be honest,
is...
that's another beauty of what, like, having a professional like
Right,
Johan is the
right.
ability to do that
Oh,
electronic
absolutely.
filing. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, I mean, you could sit there and say, oh yeah, I want to do figure it all out myself, how much I have to pay, and I'm ready to file. Now you're sitting there saying you either gotta mail it, or you got to find someone. You have to pay either a TurboTax or something
Right.
just to do the filing.
That's
So
right.
you could sit there instead of doing all this work, you did all the work yourself, and now you got to pay someone just to file. You have that built-in advantage with the tax
That's
professional
correct.
that they can do the electronic filing with you. In other words, they'll help you throughout the process and do the electronic filing for you.
That's correct. That's correct. So yeah, with TurboTax, I think people can do it. I think you can even do your personal taxes, like the 1040. You can do it for free, but then when you're gonna do the state, that's when they get you. You know. So, but yeah, I mean, we offer everything. We can do it electronically. We can do it, by mail, whatever the client would like to do. We can do
I
it.
would suspect that if you do it electronic and you get a refund, you want it as quickly as possible.
Yes, and that's another thing I wanted to mention. We just said that January 24th is the first day for filing. IRS is going to start receiving those taxes, and April 18th is going to be the last day. Okay? If you get a refund, it doesn't matter if you do it after April 18th. You're not going to get penalized or anything. But if you have to pay, then you have to do it before April 18th. Or get an extension. You can get an extension before then, before April 18th. And if you know you're going to pay taxes, just send an advance payment, estimated payment, do something so you don't get penalized.
That's good to know.
Yes.
It is,
that's
especially,
good to know.
especially for businesses, because a lot of times as a small business, you're not getting a W-2 for yourself.
Exactly.
So you kind of, you may not know exactly how much, so sometimes it can be helpful to pay that estimate
Right.
in advance so that when the time comes, you're not sitting there saying,
Right.
oh, now I have this huge tax bill.
When you're a self-employed, you have to send estimated payment. If you don't do it, you're going to get penalized.
Yep.
So you have to. Once you know you're going to get a profit, you're going to file some income, you're going to get some income, you have to send estimated payments. And the other thing I was going to mention about the refunds, they're saying that this year is going to be within 21 days if you file it electronically, that you're going to get the refund.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah.
it's from the date of your filing. So if you file,
The date, yes.
Okay.
When you're sending the filing, you have to count like 21 days in order to get the refund, is what they're saying. They're really behind. I mean, in May last year, they had a backlog of like 36 million taxes, without checking or without processing.
Wow.
By December this year, they went down to like 6, which is great. I mean, they did a great job. But still, I mean, they're still behind. I think they're still gonna be behind for a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was crazy to call last year. You couldn't get to talk to anybody last year. It was, I mean, you had, if you have to call IRS, you have to call it between Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 a.m. to try to get somebody. If you do it, after that, I don't think you're gonna get anybody.
Wow.
Hopefully, that's gonna get better this year. But last year was like that. I mean,
amazing,
It
amazing.
was a nightmare.
Which,
I can imagine, right?
Goes to show you then the value of professional, because if you've got a question, it's a lot easier to get hold of
Exactly.
Johan. So let me just call up my professional and ask this
Yeah.
question. Because if you're doing it yourself and you're like, I really don't know what to do, I need to call the IRS, you're in
Forget
trouble.
it. Yeah, you're going to waste a lot of time.
Yeah, so we can help a lot there. And if we cannot, then you have to be patient, because it's taking longer to get anything solved right now with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Johan, I mean, last question antes de cambiar. ¿Cuál es, I'm going to ask it in English and Spanish, ¿cuál es el mejor lugar de averiguar dónde está, el mejor método de se ponen en contacto con usted? Y in English, what's the best way for people to find you?
Ok, sería, tenemos la página de Facebook y está también nuestro website, gbsforbusiness.com. Ahí puede ir y ahí puede chequear la dirección, nos puede mandar un email directamente por correo y nos podemos colocar en contacto. Y también está el teléfono, por supuesto. So you can do it on our Facebook page or our website, gbsforbusiness.com.
And it's GBS for the number 4.
Number 4, yes.
GBS, the number 4 business.com.
Yes, that's correct. And just another tip. This year, make sure you're going to get 2 letters. One is going to be for the stimulus check that you received this year. Oh, a lot of people did receive that. And the other letter you're going to receive is the one for the advanced child tax credit. So you have to present those 2 for sure.
Oh,
When you file your taxes this year. So make
you
sure
need
to have
give
it, because
those
if we don't, then you might need to amend that return.
Okay.
So make sure you keep that when you get it in the mail, in other words. When you get a
right.
mail, don't just discard it. Make sure you
exactly.
open all your mail.
Tax guys going to need to see it.
Yes.
Super.
Exactly.
That's a good
That's
tip.
fantastic
Yeah,
advice.
that's a good tip.
That's fantastic advice. Johan, I always learn so much when I talk with you. Oh, we got a question, audience question.
Real estate 2022, the market, and thoughts on Bitcoin.
Oh my gosh. Well, Bitcoin.
You're a realtor, aren't you?
I'm a realtor. Yes.
You might want to ask that, Alex. I think I'm here.
Don't forget. So 2 questions is thoughts on real estate 2022, because Johanna, of course, is also a realtor, and Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think real estate is going to stay the same as last year. I don't think it's going to change. It might change a little bit at the end of the year. It might, because we might see some foreclosures, so that could maybe change the game. But I mean, nothing is for sure. Bitcoins, I don't have too much knowledge, but I do invest in Bitcoins a little bit, and I think it's going to go up from what I read. That's all I know. I don't have too much experience with Bitcoins. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Yeah, I don't think there's too many. In reality, there's not too many people have experience, like expertise with Bitcoin. It's a speculative, thing. So you buy it if you think it's going to go up, and you buy and sell.
Bitcoin isn't one of those things that you can go into the financials and say, all right, is this a good thing or not? You kind of have to go with your gut.
Exactly. I'm one of those newies that I use Coinbase, which is very, one
Very
of the
easy.
most,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of learn and play and invest, but that's it.
Fantastic.
And the other thing is, with regard to real estate, I kind of agree with you. And if there's if also you said at the end of this year, the other thing is, if interest rates do begin to rise and mortgage rates begin to rise with that, and the house prices continue to go up, sooner or later you're going to find people that say, wow, I mean, at this point, because the interest rates are up 1% more, so instead of paying 3%, I got 4% on my mortgage rate, and the house went up, I can't afford it anymore. So that might be something that will begin to slow down the real estate.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we'll see. But this has been great. Gracias.
Yeah,
Como siempre,
gracias.
un placer verlo.
Un placer.
Un placer.
Recuerdos a toda la familia.
Gracias,
Tiene
igualmente.
2 hijitos,
Sí.
que ya son
Hijitos,
más
sí.
grandes.
Sí,
grandes.
sí.
Siempre que veo,
Ahora
pienso-
hijos.
Hijos, sí.
No, hijitos.
Sí, 9 y 6.
9 y 6.
Wow.
Jovencitos todavía.
Sí.
Mucha energía, que es bueno.
Uf, mucho, sí.
Siempre es un placer, Johan.
Igualmente,
Gracias.
muchas gracias. Gracias por invitarme.
Un placer.
Always
Always
a
good.
pleasure.
Always good to see
I
you.
learned so
Good to see
much.
to Johan, and always good to talk about to talk about what he does, because I guess the most important thing is obviously he's an accountant, and obviously a realtor too. He does a lot of taxes, and nobody, let's face it, nobody likes to do taxes. Nobody likes to, file taxes. So it's great to have that service, right? And for him to be able to do that, really, and I think probably this majority of clients are Hispanic based, and a lot of them do speak English, so that's good. But the fact that he can then explain things in Spanish to them,
the jargon. Sometimes the jargon, like the specific terminology, is hard enough in English.
Absolutely.
So you may not know, like I may not know the Spanish equivalent of this word, or
yield curve. I mean, how do you say that in Spanish?
I actually
La
don't
curva de.
I'm not sure. I think this might be
anyway, the
specific
point
to
being, you're right. The point being is the jargon is critical because, and again, he knows all the rules and all the nuances, and you can say, did you think about this or did you think about that? And if you're just a normal person, a small business, it's like, no, I didn't even know about it, and it's not something that you read every day. So he does a great service to the community.
Talk to.
Yeah. Super.
Yeah. So it's curva de rendimiento.
Curva de rendimiento. Did you look that up?
Of course I looked it up.
Did you look that up on Google or
something? Of course I looked it up. Curva de rendimiento.
De rendimiento. Okay.
Yeah, it's what you're receiving.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure there's I don't think there's a small word for yield in Spanish.
Yeah,
I think yield is a big word.
Yeah, exactly.
That return. Yeah. He was still getting some love. Miguel said, go Johan, and Cynthia said, thanks for sharing your expertise with us. We've got people watching us from all over. Catherine Dabney, thanks for watching the show. Keith Smith, thanks for watching the show. Keith was very kind. He said that the Europeans are the best. Enough said. So we appreciate that, Keith.
Thank you,
and we got Joe Francavilla, Anna Miniaci watching us, and Caravello Vincenzo all the way in Italy is watching the show today. So thank you for watching, Caravello.
I guess they're worried about their taxes too, maybe, or inflation, because inflation in Europe has really begun to spike also. So he's trying to figure out when our inflation is going to slow down to know when their inflation is going to slow down.
Exactly, because they just take ours and then add a couple months.
I mean, their gas prices are probably they call it a little different.
Their gas prices are always higher.
Yeah, they're always higher. So it's probably like $8-9 a gallon.
Who knows? Who knows? It's always been more expensive.
Of course, their cars are a little smaller, a little more efficient. They drive those little kind of mini
things. Well, they drive
things.
little Fiats into the countryside where they take them out and then they have a picnic.
That's right. Oh.
And see how what I did there?
You did a great job.
I thought that was pretty nice there. The little subtle. So that's our not so subtle switch to really welcome to the show Stephanie Devada. She's the owner of Seaville Picnic. Stephanie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me again.
Always love having you on.
Always a pleasure.
So I mean, the number one thing I got to ask is I've been seeing on Instagram, just Lily DeRay takes some pictures, and I see these picnics that you're putting together in the winter. Because I know some people might sit there and think like, how can you do a picnic in the winter? And so tell people about some of the awesome things that I've been seeing that you've been doing in the winter to really create these experiences for people.
Sure. So first off, they won't be able to fit everything in their Fiat, so that's where we come in.
There you go.
But we've been booking indoor picnics at a lot of Airbnbs this winter. Of course, some rooftops are always an option too. Pollock has a heated porch, so you can still be outside. So for smaller parties, we can accommodate there as well. But as long as someone is within 30 miles of Charlottesville, we're doing private indoor at their home. So that kind of segues into Valentine's Day, too. We're going to have some fun packages coming up that you can book.
Oh, that's neat. So
That's
when you do it
amazing.
in a home, it's sort of like, I guess, transforming a space
Correct.
into something like really unique almost.
Yeah, so if someone has enough room in their living room, maybe by the fireplace would be super romantic, maybe room in their dining room, and they can move some things aside. In November, we did an indoor picnic at an Airbnb out in Crozet area, and it was in a sunroom. Because the weather turned, we were trying to go outside by fire pits, and that would have been really nice too, but we switched plans, and it was just as beautiful in the sunroom.
I can imagine.
That's a great idea, boy. I never, again, you think of picnic, you're always thinking outdoors with the ants and everything like that. But it's nice to go indoors, right? And in the winter, and have that same feel. And you're right. I mean, if you do something like in front of a fireplace, that's got to be very romantic, right?
Oh, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
It's gotta be. And I know that I the one I saw was like they just the rooftop of Common House where they had some fire there going on, and it was all beautifully decorated.
And lots of blankets, cozy faux furs, so it makes it nice and cozy even for the winter.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what are some of the other things that are new, upcoming in
Sure,
Seagull
yeah.
Picnic?
So we have some exciting plans for Valentine's Day. So if you want to get together with all your girls, or if you want a little bromance or something too, like that could always be an option. Valentine's Day, like I said, we'll have some fun things that were in the works, maybe coordinating with some wineries, maybe some fun partnerships and everything with that.
Nice.
We're going to have some new locations coming up as well, too. We also partnered with a yoga studio, so if maybe drinking isn't your thing, or if you just want to plan a whole weekend of activities with your girlfriends and it's still a little bit too cool to be outside, you can do a yoga class and then have a picnic inside. And they have an outdoor area, too, as well, like a patio garden, too, as things start coming into bloom during the spring.
That is neat, yeah. So I love the idea of like, there's no reason to be sad on Valentine's Day. Because you either do a Valentine's Day themed picnic or a Valentine's Day or a bro themed a bro themed picnic.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So I mean, I'm curious, are people already beginning to like look ahead even to spring and say, hey, I'm ready to start booking some picnics in the springtime?
March, we have some dates booked already in March, into June, even interest into August. So book now. So we may have to increase our prices due to that pesky inflation as well too. But if you book now, you'll get 2021 pricing.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a great.
So book
that's
now
a
or
great thing,
forever
right?
hold your peace.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. But,
Absolutely.
Yeah, the best way to know about all the upcoming changes, of course, subscribe to our list. We'll send out a newsletter.
Oh, so there's a newsletter that'll tell you, like, here's new packages, new ideas that you can sort of book.
Yeah, usually with the subscribers, we always let them know when the spring calendar is live for the public or any other activities that they might have first access to other than just the general public.
That is neat.
Yeah.
That's very neat. That's very neat. So basically, this newsletter, they just go on your website and sign up, and then they
It
get
should be a little pop-up as soon as they go onto our website on SeavillePicnic.com, and they can subscribe to that.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And so they'll have first access too. We had, Glenthorne Farm on here a couple of months ago too. I'm sure we'll have some weekends
That's gonna
away
be
too
gorgeous,
there too. So they'll have
especially-
first
in the spring,
access to booking those weekends for picnic and stay.
Absolutely. I mean, Glenthorne is going to be probably gorgeous, especially coming into that early springtime where things begin to flower. To just go there and have the picnic, and then if it's a little chilly still, then you can then stay overnight.
Exactly. You can stay overnight. We can also set up a picnic in the cottage that they have and if it's a little bit warm enough, they can open up the doors and still enjoy the outdoors, but cozy indoors as well.
Nothing like that. Nothing like
Yeah,
that.
that sort of indoor-outdoor feel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the beauty of it is, one of the things about newsletters, because sometimes you get inundated, but the beauty about a newsletter, though, is that it keeps you in front of people, and because sometimes you forget, like, you want to do something. It's like, oh, yeah, I want to do this in March or in April, whatever it is. But then, your life gets busy and you forget about it. But if you see the newsletter, it's like, oh, yes, I forgot. I want to do this. I need to go online. I got to look to see what opportunities there are. So that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's
Ours goes
fantastic.
out quarterly, so
Yeah.
your inbox isn't inundated. It won't get lost.
There we go. 'Cause, I mean, it's true. Just you want that kind of reminder because as you're busy, as we're saying, like you can't just. There may not be spots if you don't like the week before and say, "Hey,
if you
can I
wait
do
too
this?"
long.
You want to make sure you get your Valentine Day plans ahead, your spring plans ahead, even your August plans ahead. It seems.
Yeah.
Now, do the platters change depending on the season?
Yeah, we try to add some seasonal touches. Like during the fall, it was a lot of pumpkin spice or just some of the vegetables and fruits change seasonally as well, too.
Yeah.
So it's not like a huge difference, but if there's special requests for dietary concerns or restrictions, too, we're always accommodating.
It's good. It's good to know.
I'm sure the design probably also changes with things, because I know you brought us that beautiful Halloween-themed one, so I'm guessing Valentine's Day gets some like heart-themed.
Yeah, heart-shaped salami roses are always popular.
Salami roses. Oh. So you can eat
No,
your heart
one
out.
Alex, he'll take the whole rose and just.
Yeah,
right?
just-
That's right.
Well, I'll eat
why
my
why
heart
take
out.
it apart?
Eat your heart out,
Absolutely.
as they say.
We always have gift cards available too, so it makes a great wedding gift or just Valentine's if you want to wait until it gets a little bit warmer to enjoy the outdoors. We always have those available.
That would be fantastic. So you get someone, because in the winter, your gift to them can be, hey, you pick when the weather's warm enough for you.
It's up to you.
And you do a picnic.
Exactly.
Out there. That's fantastic.
That's a great idea, too. Yeah.
So what are some of the things that, as the spring comes, will be available, like packages that are going to be out there?
We have a lot of our standard locations available still. Valley Road, King Family, Eastwood, Stinson, Mary Mill. I know I'm forgetting Hark. I know there's at least like 10 of them, and then we're adding some new locations as well, too. Right before the winter, we just added Albemarle Ciderworks. So we'll have a cider place, too, that you can enjoy.
Nice.
And they have a beautiful secluded garden area by the house that's on the property as well, too. So you have a nice little area, but still short walk to the tasting room. And a couple of other in the works, too, that I don't want to say anything about as well, too.
So in other words, keep in tune with the newsletter.
Yes, exactly.
And see what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, but we love setting up at Airbnbs, too. That has been super fun, too, to set up in different locations. One, they're doing like a pajama party night in and doing the like picnic for like their first welcome arriving event.
Interesting. So in that case, when it's an Airbnb, so you'll go and set up in a room before the guests arrive.
Yeah. I think with them, they were having us arrive when they check in, and then they're going to go out and get some extra snacks as well too. And then this way, when they come back, everything's all set up and ready for them to go.
Fantastic.
That's
That's neat.
yeah.
That's neat. It's just, and I love just the idea of having a great event. Right, it can be an event or a time together, but taking out of it the stress of having to plan and put it together. Because sometimes, you think birthday parties, things like that, you enjoy the birthday party, but sometimes, especially if you're the birthday person and doing the hosting, it's somewhat less enjoyable because you're like, I need to make sure that there's this, I need to put this together. So you end up working. I've had some friends that they said, I basically worked and cooked all day on my birthday and then had a great time when everybody showed up. But this, you get to enjoy both of them because you're doing the setup for them.
And I even reach out to the hosts ahead of time to get approval so they don't even have to worry about talking to the host about that too. So it's just, I think the hosts appreciate it too, with coming from the owner as well too. They know that we're going to be respectful of their space and set everything back to the way that it was before. So they've been super excited and marketing their Airbnb in the process too, if they have an Instagram page.
Of course.
Now, are the weekends the busiest time, or do people kind of book during the week also?
Usually the weekends are the busiest, but I've had during the week as well too. Sometimes there's a random Tuesday that someone just, if someone has a interesting work schedule or maybe a little not a typical 9 to 5, I've had Tuesdays, which King Family is super accommodating. Valley Road, there's still a lot of wineries that are open during the week, so
Well, that's good to know.
there's always options.
Yeah. And I would assume that as you get closer to the summer months, especially once you get into, May and June when the days are longer, maybe, it doesn't really matter. At that point, you get out of work at 5 o'clock and then you go for a picnic or something.
Exactly. There's a lot, but there's always options. If someone doesn't see something on their website, they can always reach out. There's always custom locations, custom options.
So what if somebody says, there's an area that I know that I can use, and I just want the picnic set up there? Is that a problem or no? No, it doesn't
Shouldn't
matter.
be, no.
Okay.
As long as we know the location, we have an
course.
as long as we know
That's
the
a surprise.
location,
I'm going to tell you the day of.
that we can access it with a small SUV easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're always open to that.
Yeah, and that's I love the idea of the one-stop shop in a sense. You don't have to be okay, I have to call the event, just having done some event planning for Fort Atlante, right? You've got to call the venue, call the caterer, call the flower people, call the setup stuff. Just the idea, you call Stephanie and you'll call the venue, you'll call anything else that's needed.
Photographer.
So they just have to go on, and it's as easy as going on your website and you can even book online.
Yes, we'll have, probably within the next week, we'll have the Valentine's Day options where you can book directly online. Until then, we're just booking by appointment, especially just given the weather, since there's some limited options or just different options or more custom. So we're just booking by appointment.
Absolutely, which is just fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, it's one call, and you'll take care of everything else that they could possibly need with it.
Exactly. Cupcakes, cookies, sandwiches, salads, and of course the charcuterie.
Of course, the
Can't
charcuterie
forget
is
that.
that's the most beautiful looking part for me. I mean, I love charcuterie, so when you bring the charcuterie board, I'm the person that would like go past all the beautiful decorations and be like, "Oh, that looks great, the charcuterie board. That looks
Now,
fantastic."
do you do this all by yourself, or do you have some help?
We have some help. We're hoping to, of course, expand this year and
That's-
hire some non-family help.
Okay, so the
Well, the
family's
family's
the help
great
so far.
too.
That's the classic small. I feel like
Absolutely.
the classic small business. I mean, speaking as a family business, like your classic small business beginning is family is the first help.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's a beautiful. I mean, for me, that's a plus.
It is a plus.
It's
Absolutely.
like, all right,
Yeah.
everyone's invested completely in this business.
Especially when I can tell that they're passionate about it too and have fun in their past experience and newly emerging into the like job market too. So it helps give them a lot of experience too and things to strive to in the future, become their own entrepreneurs.
There you go. It's the beauty of, you're spreading entrepreneurship and cheer and lots of love. So it's fantastic.
Well, that's a nice thing about that's got to be a nice thing about the business, right? I mean, in the sense, so what you're doing something for people that already are enthusiastic about an event, whether it be an engagement or a birthday party or a sleepover, what it may be, right? So you're doing something that people are already excited about, right? And then what you're doing for them is like you don't have to worry about anything else. You're just going to have an event. It's going to be a lot of fun, and everything else is being taken care of for you, right? So it's like you can sleep at night knowing that everything's going to be done for you, and you have to feel pretty good about that, right? Because again, it's a happy thing, right?
And we had a special request last year for a birthday. They were like, "Can you do charcuterie numbers?" I'm like, sure, whatever you want. I had to go and like look up on Pinterest what she was talking about.
I mean, the customization is really neat because it's
Yeah.
it's not a one size fits all thing. Like you'll make minute changes depending
Exactly.
on what are their
Like
needs.
for the fresh flowers for proposal picnics, I always ask them what their fiance's like favorite flower is. So we try to incorporate that as long as it's seasonal. So sunflower,
you can't
sometimes
do
it's
a
been
Brazilian.
sunflowers. I looked all over trying to find dahlias. It was like towards the end of the season, and when I a floral shop that I called them up and they like hooked me up.
So I mean that's a special thing, is then you just add those special touches that you need to sort of take your good event or your good proposal and make it a.
Well, then they'll definitely say yes, and they're like, "Wow, you did all of this, and you have my favorite flowers."
You thought of my
everything.
favorite flower, and I said, "Well, technically, Stephanie asked me what your favorite flower was."
That's
but
right.
We won't mention that part.
That was like I remember.
They still seem impressed, regardless. Just all the planning behind the scenes too that went in, and then a lot of times they had no clue what was going on.
Oh, which must be really fun.
Yeah.
Do you ever are you ever able to stay and peek and watch it happen?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
is it only
Usually, depending on where we're at, like at Stinson, usually the photographer and I are hiding behind the vines and hoping that they don't walk down the row that like we picked to hide behind. So we just try to act like we're the gardeners, We're like, oh, we're just pruning the vines.
I love the idea. Like I would do the same thing. I'd be like hide with the photographer and said, "Okay, just don't make any sounds." I did enjoy it. So like, what would you say? I'm always curious. What would you say is your favorite part about what you do?
I think seeing their reaction when they first see the picnic, regardless of whether it's the proposal or a birthday, like seeing their reaction when they first walk up, they're always like,
Yes,
it's just that it just makes everything worth it when seeing their face smiling and enjoying their time. And at the end, if I get a chance to talk to them before they leave too, just like they're expressing that they had a great time and everything. And just, especially since it's been a challenging couple of years
Yeah.
too, like
Yeah.
seeing their reaction, just helping, if they haven't been able to get away, that they can almost have a vacation like right at home too and feel like, the whole experience took them to a different place.
Exactly.
It is, that's a beautiful thought. Yeah.
Now,
I
do you
like
have
that.
people sometimes that are, I would assume in some cases, if it's a couple, maybe one of them is supposed to be surprised, or maybe is there situations where some people that are going to the event don't know about the picnic?
I think,
Yeah.
yeah. Usually, I mean,
That's got to be even
yeah.
more.
Mostly it's proposals. Most of the time,
Yeah,
the other
that's-
time
yeah,
they
yeah, I
know.
would
But
think
I
so.
think sometimes even if someone booked, they're like, oh, it's just a picnic. Then their reaction, they're like, oh no, this is not just a picnic. This is so much more.
This isn't one blanket with a basket. This is
That's right.
much more than that.
Yeah.
It is. It's probably that look of wonder. It always
Yeah.
reminds me of in the Narnia movie when they didn't tell the kids what Narnia would look like when they come out of the wardrobe, and it was
Yeah.
like this beautiful snowscape and everything. Probably that same thing. Like you know, okay, yeah, I'm booking a picnic, but you don't exactly know what it's gonna look like. And then you get there, and probably they have that look of wonder, like, oh, this is way more than I expected.
That's right.
Especially sometimes when I've like done the new looks too, there might be just a little sneak peek of it, or we might just go like announce it, and then they don't know exactly what it's going to look like until they get there. So there's nice like sense of surprise.
Surprise. Oh, so repeat customer is worth it because you might get a new look.
Yes, exactly. Which we have a winter Wonderland look right now, which Lily did some of the photos
Yep.
for that on the rooftop, and then we also have another one coming out too that's got like beautiful jewel tones and very like rich, like dreamy look as well too.
See, so it can be different every time.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's definitely always such a pleasure to have you here. So SeavillePicnic.com
Correct.
is where people can find you. SeaVillePicnic.com as well as Seaville Picnic. Not hard to find on Facebook. You literally type in
Yeah.
Seaville
Facebook,
Picnic.
Instagram.
Same thing on
email.
Instagram, Seville Picnic. Is that how it works?
Yep, same thing. And they will all be tagged.
Easy
So
to remember.
if you go to Today Manana, we will tag all of them so you can literally just click the link and go straight there.
There you are.
Follow us, like us, message.
Absolutely. Be sure to check it out and get your bookings in early.
Yes.
Don't-
Right.
Do not
It's
wait
gonna
till the last
It's
minute.
going to be a busy season. I can feel it.
Absolutely. So make sure you get going early and contact Stephanie and get your picnic set up. So thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
so
us.
much.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Always a
It's
lot of
of fun. You know,
Always.
you have that image in your head, right, of picnics, right? So it makes you feel really good. Also makes you a little hungry right now, though.
It does. I have to say, yeah. Every time Stephanie comes on, between thinking of the charcuterie and now she said the word cupcakes, which was a
Oh,
mistake
yes,
for me
yes.
to hear that word. So now I'm definitely like, oh, okay, I'm hungry. I'm ready for that. But always see, this is why I just love doing this show.
Absolutely.
You know, get to meet-
We talk about it all the time now. I mean, this is just even just when we have repeat customers, you learn something new all the time,
Yeah.
right? And it's a delight. It really is a
It
delight
is.
to see the passion in the people that have that do these little businesses, right?
It is. It is. That's the joy. That's the joy of it. There's nothing like the entrepreneur.
Nothing.
To share the passion and just the knowledge that
Exactly.
they have.
Ingenuity too. I
And
mean, they come up with
ingenuity.
a new idea
Always
and
coming
they
up
say,
with-
"Let me do this," or "Let me try that," and it works.
A couple comments. Lily says that she loves working with Stephanie. She's so professional and incredibly kind. And the Winter Wonderland look is so cute. So if it's not, I don't think it's too late for Winter Wonderland.
Oh, definitely not.
No, we're right
We're
in the
still
middle.
in winter.
We're right.
Yeah.
Winter just started.
Absolutely,
technically,
yes.
December 21st. So be sure to go check out the Winter Wonderland look because it's being recommended by numerous people.
It'll warm up the heart at least, right?
Yes, it will. It will, especially if it has the little heart charcuterie. It will especially warm my heart. Always so much fun. Always
Absolutely.
a blast to be on. And next week's going to be great as well. We're going to have on Dallas Kirby from DNA Soft Wash and Roof Cleaning. So, I mean, as you're especially speaking of like it just snowed on you and probably like, when sometimes it gets dirty and it comes down like your siding and
Yeah,
stuff.
from your roof and stuff. I mean, he's an
thing to
amazing
think
guy.
about.
I met him once, and he's very energetic. He's just like wow, this guy.
So it'll be
He's
another exciting show.
It'll be fun too. Yes, yeah, and I'm sure we'll learn something. I mean, I know nothing.
Me neither.
about.
I know nothing about that business, and so it's one of those things that like it's probably good to know more about it because you're going to face it sooner or later as a homeowner. So best to know a little something.
That's right,
Instead of being
exactly.
like, who the heck do I even call?
That's
for
right.
My roof is dirty. Who do I call
That's
for
right.
this?
Yeah.
So that'll be a great show that we have set up. So just always appreciate being here.
Thank you,
With you,
Alex.
Pops.
I'm
Always
glad you
do-
invite me every week. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure to invite you every week. Also because I probably wouldn't do it if it was just me. I'd be
You
too
do-
nervous by
believe me,
myself.
you do a great job of you by yourself, but it's always fun.
I'd be
being
much
with you.
more nervous. I'd be like, it's less fun, And thank goodness it's you and not Nick. I had to throw that in there since she's not here with us today.
That's right.
And of course, we always appreciate you, our audience, for watching us. Appreciate being on the I Love Seville set. We got Jerry here asking some great live audience questions. I love the live audience question.
That's right.
Judah behind the camera, making us all look good. And of course, really appreciate Emergent Financial Services, our presenter, and our sponsors, Seville Pitnit, GBS Financial Services, Vitae Spirits, Aqua Seville Hand Car Wash, and Sirius Credit Insurance. Love our partners. We love being powered by them. And so we really love it. Love being with For Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville,
Who knows?
Virginia.
Maybe there's an event this
And
year.
who knows? Maybe there's some For Adelante events this year at long last as we hopefully come into a beautiful springtime with some,
That would be great.
some open spaces to do it in. So I'm looking forward to it. And of course, thanks so much for watching us. Be sure to let us know any entrepreneurs you want us to talk to, any comments, any questions. Be sure to send them our way. You can always find us at todaymanana.com, where you'll find this interview. You'll find links to both GBS Financial Services. You can go check out what everyone who comes on GBS Financial, as well as Seville Pitnit. You can just click the link, go straight there, get your taxes done, and then put yourself a picnic to
There you are.
decompress after you've done that.
That's right.
But thank you so much for watching us this week, and we look forward to seeing you next week. But until then, hasta mañana.